Hey gang, thank you so much for clicking my video. So much love to you. And there's a problem with modding in Warframe that not enough people talk about, in my opinion. When it's discussed, it's really only ever in passing and never fully touched on in the way that I'd like Owie to touch on me. Anyways, everyone knows about the raw information that's missing in Warframe regarding modding. I know that it would be real nice if corrupted mod hunts were made into like an actual mini quest, and 6060 mods should really be pointed to in like more of a direction. They occasionally come from pretty obscure locations despite their importance to so many builds. However, that's a lot of developer time and resources dedicated to something that YouTubers have kind of mastered. And not to say that YouTube is a replacement for any kind of direct Warframe tutorial content. Like, trust me, Wiki on second monitor is something I thoroughly do not enjoy. I know some people do, but I think that's a minority of players. But for these smaller bits and pieces, it may be best to leave the community to it. You know, they do a generally very good job. Warframe educational content is, like, in my opinion, the majority of Warframe content. You know, given that DE is a company with finite resources, they can't do everything. I get it. If there are more substance to like these kind of quests, like story or other additions, similar to like the teacher quest and meeting Teshin, I'd feel a whole lot different about the whole thing. But regardless, anyway, an entire component that people don't talk about enough that makes up a really solid portion, I wouldn't say like 50%, more like 33%-ish, of why DE struggles so much with teaching new players modding. And it seems to evade a lot of people, and I think it's just because it's something we naturally learn, but this is what I'm referring to as damage communication, or how the player understands how much damage they're dealing at any given time. So I'm going to draw you a picture with my shitty little graphic design program and try to explain what I'm discussing here. Okay, this might look like the ramblings of someone who is really unwell in the head, but just trust me, I have a vision. Okay, so this is Digital Extremes. This is a new player. This is the moon. The moon in this case is representative of like a decent understanding of modding. It's enough that you could make your own build, have a good time, get through the game and all the main story content without having to look at a single YouTube video, right? It is DE's goal to get the new player to the moon, right? Or to Lua, or whatever you want to call it, okay? You could make the case that DE is doing a pretty bad job at that. Not awful, definitely not as bad as it used to be, but definitely not doing a great job. And you'd be valid in saying that. The problem is, we're trying to get new players to the moon in a Toyota Camry. That's what damage communication kind of is, to me. Damage communication right now is a Toyota Camry, which is fine, but it will not get you to the moon. What I'm saying is we need to level up the kind of damage communication that we're giving players, right, into like a rocket ship to actually take us to the moon. I think the damage communication in Warframe is quite poor, and I'm going to provide solutions to help that. And the teacher, while being a good quest, it just kind of straps rockets to the Camry, and that will make the Camry go very fast. And if you get a ramp, maybe you could get pretty far, but you're not making it to the moon. So what I'm going to kind of present in this video is a bit of a exoskeleton of a new damage communication system that will make it so that new players can more easily understand how to upgrade their damage, how much damage they're actually dealing relative to like what the enemies have in health, and how to mod properly and be able to test it for themselves on the spot easily. So first of all, I need to establish some definitions real quick. These are largely subjective, but do have like a lot of truth in them, but it's just the words that I'm going to be using throughout the video, so I want you guys to understand what they mean. So for me, damage communication is split into two parts. The first part is damage feedback, which is like your red crits, basically. It's the stuff that happens in the mission, seeing how status effects affect your enemy, seeing that the status effect is over their, health bar, the crit tiers, the colors, all that, headshot sounds, anything that indicates that you are doing something right or wrong. A little like null sound when you don't deal damage to something, just to help you determine when and how you're dealing the most damage to the target. The second part of damage communication is damage representation / calculation. This is basically the information on the side of like your modding / upgrade menu, indicating how much damage you are dealing, the exact values of your statuses, so on and so forth. Basically, that's what the modding menu has. Right now, I believe that the main insufficient part is the representation / calculation part. I also think that the feedback could use a little bit of work, but I think that generally like the feedback part is pretty okay. I wouldn't worry about focusing on it too much. But in my opinion right now, the problem is that the modding menu takes up, like the mod slots take up a ton of room, and I think we might need a little bit more than that. But first we'll start with my simple solution and then move on to my more complex one. So I only recently got into Warframe content creation within the last year, and something that I hate more than anything is trying to test like proper numbers. I could not for the life of me, without losing hair, like properly get, oh, this is a 20% damage increase, this is a 60% damage increase. The Simulacrum, which is our current method of testing things, is simply insufficient, or at least like ineffective, for the vast majority of testing cases that would want any level of like precise math. At least for ease of use, it's just not efficient at all. All it really does for the main part is like, it's like TikTok clips, like, oh, look how many Skuldra Decadence I can slime out in 10 seconds or whatever. It's good for clips, showcases, thumbnails, whatever, but in the way of actual numbers and understanding like how to deal more damage, it's just not sufficient. And at worst, it's not sufficient. At best, it's just not effective. It's not like efficient at all. It's so difficult to do. Unequip all your mods, write down the damage numbers, whatever. For us veterans and like some other mid to late game players, this game is not a matter of dealing enough damage. It's more of a matter of like, oh, how many times can I deal this guy's entire health bar on his forehead? Like, oh, I overkilled on my 4x, 16x, whatever. So damage becomes like less relevant, and the fate of our enemies ends up kind of being the same. But put yourself back into the shoes of a new player. You've just equipped your first max rank Stormbringer. Then you get your first solid viral heat build from a Brozime video. Your first primed or galvanized mod. Wouldn't it be nice to see kind of like how that process looks? What I'm suggesting here are like 2 fairly small changes, but ones that I believe would make a world of difference. So my first suggestion is bringing the Simulacrum earlier into the game. Not the exact Simulacrum that we currently use, but like a baby's first Simulacrum. It doesn't even have to spawn a bunch of enemies. The most important part of the Simulacrum would be the ability to spawn a test dummy of like a basic Grineer unit, a basic Corpus unit, and a basic Infested unit. All you'd be able to do is fire whatever guns you own. There'd be Arsenal in there as well, and then you just fire into the test dummy and it gives you a DPS value. That's it. So you could re-equip certain mods, upgrade certain mods, fire back into the test dummy, and a new player can see visually how their DPS is affected by the mods they're equipping. I just think that'd be so useful. I think right now we arbitrarily apply what I call like concepts and truths to our building. Like, oh, yeah, I need like a good diverse stat spread of like crit chance, crit damage, status chance, status damage, multi-shot, instant fire rate. Like I know that to be true. I'm not testing that at all. I just know it's a fact because I've played this game for 6,000 hours, right? You know what I'm saying? So I think that having like an actual test dummy where you can sit there and not have enemies that just instantly die, you have to keep respawning, I think that's really annoying. So giving like a baby's first Simulacrum that has a test dummy would be really good. I also think that the Simulacrum needs to be more streamlined. I don't mean to be like a whiny baby here, but I think having to go see my like Red Veil representative, go to a relay, fast travel to Samaris, click a button, click another button, and then spawn on the enemies, I think that's too many inputs to test if I've put a single mod on my weapon. I don't think that's efficient at all. And it makes wanting to test things, like there are multiple games, I think about like, I don't know, Overwatch or Valorant, you spend so much time in the testing tool practicing things. I feel like if there was something like that in Warframe, it would be really like satisfying. I think that new players should get the chance to test out every new mod they get efficiently without having to put in like 10 inputs. I know that makes it sound like a whiny baby, but like optimization with things like that, making players go do things that they wouldn't normally do, requires like some pushing into that direction in terms of like efficiency, quickness, stuff like that. So yeah, I think that the Simulacrum needs to have needs to be more streamlined. Some version of it needs to come to the player earlier, and there needs to be a testing dummy that can give you actual meaningful DPS numbers that you don't have to like scribble down like a crazy person after you've dealt the damage. Especially for new players, I think this is really important. So here we find ourselves in the actual game itself, and I wanted to take a look at something that I find kind of insufficient that I would like to be upgraded or looked at a little bit, and that's this whole little damage categorization here. I think it could certainly use some work, and I've written up like a prototype. Granted, I'm not a HUD maker. I don't make interfaces, unfortunately. That's not my job. So it's really scuffed, but I think that we have all the tools here to create like a decent DPS calculation that can be put onto the screen for us without being so like math intensive, right? I also, again, DE gives like pretty good information. When I hover things, they are given to me. But these are like fairly small numbers, or fairly small characters, and like hovering them over and over to learn what they do can be kind of tedious. So I don't think it's the most effective thing. What I'm suggesting we add is like, I don't know, you click a button somewhere up here, maybe like here or up top here, and it basically gives you like this entirely new HUD that describes what each mod you've equipped does and how it affects your damage calculation. So I'll put that on the screen now. But basically, like how much damage you're dealing with each tier of crit, the status % chance you have to apply, what those statuses do, put it kind of all in one spot. I think the problem is, and again, this is this is not really a criticism of the current system. I think it's fine the way it is. It just needs to be added to. It doesn't need to be changed per se. A big chunk of this HUD here, this interface, is taken up by the inventory of your mods, which once you have mods equipped is kind of useless. The mods you have selected here, which is good, but they're really just stats. So, you know, obviously it's cool that there's like this whole interactive menu for it where you're playing like a little matching game. But this, where which has the numbers that matter, takes up less than 25% of the screen. So I think that having like a button towards the middle here that gave you an interface that actually showed your DPS calculations, what crit chance, crit damage means, what statuses mean, what they're doing, their % chance to proc, maybe even like a little sentence on like status weighting, would be really, really helpful. And I think that this needs to be like expanded on a bit, and then we can really teach players how their damage is dealt, and therefore how they need to mod their weapons without having to look up a guide every like 2 minutes. Alright, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I'm feeling the same embarrassment that I felt when I brought Legos into show and tell every week in elementary school, but we'll keep rolling on. So base damage times multi-shot times critical damage when you do critical strike. Obviously, crit information is the one big part I haven't really figured out where to put in this little like prototype. Obviously, this is not a full screen, but this is about as much space as I was able to give it right now. Times fire rate. And then status info, I think, should go on the side a little bit. In this case, I thought about like being able to like, oh, what if you have this much armor taken up? This would be a raw damage calculation, which I think would be great to complement the training dummy. Basically, the goal of this is to give you a, and I'll talk you through it, but the goal of this is to give you a more raw DPS calculation. As you can see through the middle here, it would actually show you the DPS calculation. So base damage times multi-shot, times fire rate, times critical damage, whatever. This would give you a very raw number, while that training dummy that I mentioned earlier would give you a very applied number, and you could use those in tandem to actually create builds for yourself. So all it would have is this information, this text up here. When you hovered any of these given tabs, it would show you the mods you have that affect that stat, which I think would be really, really useful. Here it would be like status info. This would be a little bit more expansive, I think, but mostly it does a pretty good job. Again, the goal, really, again, if you have better ideas, please share them. Okay, this is embarrassing. This is kind of a piece of shit, but whatever. Basically, the goal is to make it so that you don't have to hover things in order to get the information, and you can actually read properly with everything on the screen at the same time. So this would actually show you how DPS is calculated in the game, show you the number you got, show you the mods that are doing what, and then when you change the mods, you can relook at the screen, see the numbers you got. See what I'm saying? So here's like the base information, the entire calculation. This would be special trait or any excess information. Again, I was thinking like crit tiers because crits are RNG by nature. So, and then here would be like conditional effects. So like Argon scope is when you're aiming down sights, or headshots scoped with galvanized scope, whatever. Galvanized mods just getting kills. Base damage conditional from merciless, stuff like that would go here. I know this is kind of crazy, but I want you guys not to like look at this and be like, wow, this guy is a really shit artist, which is true, but also like I think that the modding menu and the interface could be more to help new players understand how damage is dealt in Warframe. So hopefully you understand. Comment me in the comments, obviously, free country, but understand what I'm trying to say here, please. So to conclude here, what exactly am I suggesting to change the way that we look at modding? Basically, I am talking not from a pure education standpoint, but because obviously, like, when I made that that video about the teacher quest and how I think it's just fine, a lot of people commented on how annoying it is that, oh, by the way, you have to know what galvanized mods are, you have to know what corrupted mods are. And like, there is some semi-truth to a lot of that, especially corrupted mods, because they make up such a bulk of our content when it comes to modding. But a lot of it is the fact that players can't really figure stuff out on their own. My goal is to, again, turn that Toyota Camry into a proper rocket that can make it to the moon. I want players to have the assets to figure out how to deal the most damage themselves. That is the goal here. So goal one, objective one, is to streamline the acquisition and the getting to of the Simulacrum. Now, it doesn't have to be the actual Simulacrum as it stands. It could be more of a beginner Simulacrum that you can go to real easily. and give players a test dummy where they can actually see their how much DPS they are dealing as a number that is calculated for them. That's the one I think needs to be added the most, personally. I think, now granted, obviously if you're a veteran and that doesn't help you, and I think it does have room to help veterans, by the way. This isn't just a new player thing, but having new players be able to experiment with how much damage they're able to do in an accessible way without having to load it to a mission, real snappy from their orbiter, from their back room, I think would be really, really helpful. The second solution is a lot more scuffed, and it's basically a second added interface that you could access that would give you your actual raw damage calculation, how the mods are affecting your weapon, and what the damage calculation actually looks like. Something that would kind of nudge the player in the direction that, hey, it's really good to invest into what you have like good base stats with. So like you don't just want a bunch of base damage, you want multi-shot, you want critical chance, you want fire rate, you want status. These are the things you want. I think that having a HUD that actually shows what the numbers are doing could be really helpful. And with both of those added, you would have a very, a much more applied science of firing into a test dummy, having their resistances take effect, their armor, their shields, their faction weaknesses or multipliers, whatever. That'd be like an applied version, and then you would have the raw, kind of like pseudo math, scientific raw number that is not impeded by armor or whatever. So players can at least see, oh, I put this multi-shot damage mod on, it gave me this much damage. Or I put this fire rate damage mod on, it actually gave me more damage. Say something like anemic agility, right? If I put anemic agility, like you look at it like, it lowers my base damage but increases my fire rate. But it's way easier to apply statuses, and I'm actually doing more damage than I thought because of X or Y. Being able to see how much DPS you're actually doing and how each mod affects that, I think would be really significant. So hopefully you guys didn't find this one too much of a bore. I know it was a little bit of a rant, but that's the kind of video I wanted to push out. I had a much more sophisticated script written for this, but it just didn't fit the way I wanted it to. So I used most of it, but did scrap a bunch of it for another video. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you again for clicking on one of my videos. So much love for you always, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.